You were there at the Sidemen Charity match. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Went down there, interviewed the man himself, KSI.
I've predicted West Ham to finish 17th this season.
Really?
I regret it now, and I apologise to you. I apologise to West Ham fans.
My name.
Okay,
I'm going to go for Poch.
Poch. You're giving me three very poor options. I don't think any of them are going to have stellar seasons.
Yeah.
You know? Well, as a West Ham fan, I'm okay with it. And then on an England perspective, I'm just tired about asking and trying to apply logic.
I want you to build your perfect football player. Do you think there's life out in the universe? Hello guys, welcome back to the BoreDraw podcast, and today we've got a very, very special guest joining us. We have Jamie from Copa 90, DR Sports. He's been everywhere.
He's got his own channel now, Jamie Talks.
I do, yeah. I think me and Kwaku did an appearance on your channel way back when.
That's one of our favourite videos.
Yeah, we look back at that, we're like, that was the early days.
It's high praise. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, boys. Second appearance.
Yeah, I mean, you've been up to some absolute madness recently. I mean, let's talk about last weekend. You were there at the Sidemen Charity match. Talk to us a little bit about that, sort of what that was like for you.
Yeah, so if anyone that doesn't know, I work for Copa 90. I'm a producer for Copa 90, do some bits in front of camera for them as well. Went down, covered the Sidemen game. So as a West Ham fan, like I can't
London Stadium, it's crazy.
At the London Stadium, I can't really ask for a better experience, really. Went down there, interviewed the man himself, KSI, got some time pitch side with him, and then went up to the press box and watched the game. You know, super fun game. You know, raised over like 2 million.
Insane amount of money.
Yeah, raised over 2 million for charity. You know, I think it's one of the biggest events in YouTube history, I'd say. So, yeah, class being able to go down and do it, and it was at the London Stadium. So
yeah, I mean, I think Ethan Bazinga, he scored. Like within about 5 minutes. That must be outrageous, and scoring at your team's stadium.
Yeah,
but it just seems like everything you've done recently has just been one on top of the other. I mean, you had appearances on DR Sports as well.
Yeah.
Which is massive. And then we'll go back a little bit further, and we'll talk a little bit about West Ham before we get onto them two.
Jamie's West Ham fan, if you didn't know.
Yeah, massive time, big time Irons. But yeah, that night in Prague.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that. Like maybe a little bit about the build up towards it. So what were you thinking beforehand? Were you happy just to be there, or was it always about?
I experienced every emotion possible that day. So I went with Copa. Luckily, we did some work with TNT when B&T were changing over to TNT, and it was we did all the finals, and thankfully the people in the office were like, "Right, Jamie's going to Prague." I was like, "You know, this best day of my life." So I don't think my day could have got any better. I don't think I've actually said this on camera either. So went out there, obviously had a bunch of work to do, and then obviously we were going to the game as well. My day started off with going to the hotel where all the BT staff and players and all that were staying. So my day started off with an interview with Carlton Cole and Joel Cole.
Ideal.
So I'm just like, all right, my day's sweet already. Right? Then from there, we went straight to like the fan park into where all the fans were. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. West Ham fans are going wild. You all saw the imagery. If you haven't, look it up. You know what I mean? So when I interviewed all the fans, got immersed in it. Then went to the stadium like 4 hours early. And I'm just like pitch side on a...
Soaking it in.
Yeah, soaking it in. Like I'm pitch side on a pitch that my team, that have never won anything in my lifetime, are about to play on in a matter of hours. So was fully gassed. Then went to the it was the Europa Lounge, I believe, which is like where all like the high flyers go. So I'm going in there thinking, no, I'm a working class boy. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going in there, I'm thinking, put my hood up. I should not be in it. Like full slap up course, like free drinks, free dinner, and everything like that. And I was just like, how have I blagged my way in? This is outrageous, right? Have a nice meal, like interact with a few people. The trophy's over there before we won it, so I'm thinking
I could take that now.
I could take that right now. Then go straight to the game, and the game was like cinema for me. Like I was worried I wouldn't be near the West Ham fans because I was out there for work purposes, but I think the distance between West Ham fans and me was less than what the distance between me and you is right now. Nice. It was like like that stairs are divided. It was quite like that. So game kicks off. Atmosphere is buzzing. By this point, I've had far too many beers. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just like I was soaking in the environment, and just the game played out, how the game played out, how it ended with the last minute winner.
Yeah, that's the best part of it. It's all like down to the last minute.
Yeah. So the game obviously happened. Everyone's on cloud 9. And then my night was spent, I went back to the BT after party.
Oh, cool.
So then I'm having drinks with Joe Cole.
Joe Cole's on the bevs, yeah,
I was mixing it. I was like, how have I got myself here? You know.
Love
so
it.
as a West Ham fan, I think I lived the perfect West Ham day.
That is
I don't know if I'll ever top that. You know?
If you could build your perfect footballing day out, that's probably it.
Get to interview
Yeah.
the Coles.
Getting bevved up with the legends, your team win the final. That's
you
ideal.
basically got the best
celebrate
of both
afterwards.
worlds, didn't you?
That's ideal.
That's unbelievable. And I think it can't be understated what that means to a West Ham fan. I mean, you're an Arsenal fan, so he gets, you know, he's already above that.
I don't know, but we've been talking about this a lot on the podcast recently about like perspective and like the team you support and the trophies that you can win. It's all about perspective. Like for West Ham, like you said, it's been like your whole lifetime that you haven't won anything. So to win something, whereas like me, you've
seen Arsenal in the Champions League.
I say Arsenal have struggled in like my recent lifetime, but I've still seen us win a lot. And like Luke as a QPR fan hasn't seen his team win anything. So
Championship playoff final.
So it's like all about perspective, and like one night in Prague for you is like the best thing ever. And
but then you've also got to balance that with like why can't we strive to, you know, isn't that the dream of football? Like you can go out on that pitch and you can beat anyone on any day. Like it's not about you know, and for a team like I don't know Sheffield United, they nearly took Spurs scalp yesterday if it wasn't for 20 minutes of added time. Do you know what I mean? And for them that would be outrageous, you know. And so it's all about that perspective. But West Ham, it was a strange summer because last season, although you did win the European trophy, the season itself was a bit of a struggle. You sort of towards the end you managed to sort of starve off any sort of form of relegation battle, but there was a point where you were thinking we're in a little bit of trouble here. And then luckily, you know, Devin Moyes and the boys pulled it all back together right at the end. But then over the summer, there was always, after that win, Declan Rice basically was like, it is my time, and which is fair enough. I mean, he's captain West Ham to a European trophy, so it couldn't really have gone better for anyone, I don't think, as sort of a send-off. And then you had the transfer window, and you lost Rice to Arsenal, and I think you've done quite well with the fee there. Obviously, I think that's what he's worth. 100%.
Very well with the fee.
But
It was
I
a
think
British
you got
record.
quite nice about all this Man City coming in maybe or whatever. No one really knows what that was about. But then there was a long period of time where nothing happened. It was quite stagnant in the window for you. And it feels like towards the last couple of weeks...
And that's where we did our kind of predictions as well, because I don't know if you've seen it. I've predicted West Ham to finish 17th this season.
Really?
I regret it now, and I apologise to you, I apologise to West Ham fans, because that was at the point where you'd just lost Rice. You went in for Carlos Borges from Man City, and Ajax swooped in and got him. And it looked like nothing else was happening. I was like, West Ham are in trouble here.
And then within the space of 2 weeks...
And then you had like a mad end to the window.
You got in Alvarez, which a lot of people weren't too sure about.
It's gone under the radar,
and there was a lot of people saying, well, maybe he's a bit overhyped or whatever. But he's been solid.
I think he's slightly overrated, but we'll talk about that.
And then James Ward-Prowse, which I think was...
What a signing.
He's been outrageous this season so far, and it's a disgrace that he wasn't in that England team for the recent qualifier and friendly. But then Mohamed Kudus as well, who is a player that's been very highly rated at Ajax. And he's had a lot of big names sort of sniffing around him and being linked to him.
For like Arsenal, Chelsea.
And then to go in and get him is such a sign of intent that we're not quite happy with, you know, just selling Rice and pocketing the money. You've gone out there, and from all accounts, you know, looking at where you sit in the table at the minute and the performances you put in, it's almost worked out beneficial to you guys.
Oh, 100%. I think it teaches Ajax not to come and, you know, take over our transfers at the last minute, because we'll just go sign their two best players. So, I think...
Talk a little bit about Declan Rice leaving first. Like, where do you sit on that? Because I saw a lot of West Ham fans coming for him, and I get why. Like, losing your best player is never fun, and especially to the London rival. But he put in a shift for West Ham for 4, 5, 6 years. So
no. Again, I've got no hatred towards Declan Rice at all. I think where some people have hatred for him is because he's gone to Arsenal. And it's like they put him up against ex-legends like a Paulo Di Canio, who allegedly turned down Man United and they think, hey, he's never going to be a legend because Declan Rice hasn't done it.
Yeah.
For me personally, Declan Rice, you know, is the biggest 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 player every single week.
Yeah.
You know, like he's Mr. Consistent and he did it over a period of years for West Ham, and he was imperative for us and even getting into Europe and then doing well in Europe, you know, finishing in the semi-finals of the Europa League, then going winning the Conference League. And although last year wasn't great, he didn't have a great season either. Declan Rice was Mr. West Ham for a few years, even when Noble was captain. You know, like as silly as that sounds, he was the on-field captain.
100%.
Like, you know, he's done a shift for West Ham, and football's about chapters. Like it hurt to see him leave, and it hurts to see him at Arsenal, and it hurts to see him, you know, singing about North London and saying like, you know, oh, I didn't know football's like this. It's not really the best PR move as a ex-club captain, but I don't have any like personal hatred to him. I think he did a great job for us, you know. And
it brings in that investment. Like I was going to liken it to Jack Grealish leaving Villa for Man City and them getting that 100 million. Then they spend that 100 million. Now they're European contenders. They've got a really strong manager, a really strong squad.
They've done it almost a bit different to West Ham had done it with that money. They invested almost before Grealish had left. Whereas in West Ham's transfer window, there was almost this sense of like, well, we know you've got that money. We're going to try to squeeze it out of you. And I think West Ham done well. They didn't falter to that.
Yeah.
And they've actually got, for what I think is good value money for good players.
Well, Aston Villa owners are super ambitious. I mean, I'm not sure if you know, they also own the Milwaukee Bucks in America. So they're used to punching up and trying to go for championships, and they won a championship a few years ago. And it feels like they're just a super ambitious set of owners. The West Ham set of owners are obviously a little bit different, whereas Aston Villa are a little bit proactive. I feel like West Ham at times are a little bit reactive and we do things after the fact. So yeah, like don't get me wrong, we got incredible money for Declan Rice, but there were panic stations throughout the window when, you know, we're going to Bayer Leverkusen in pre-season, losing 4-0, and we're just outside the start of the season. And we even went into the Bournemouth game really without. I don't think we'd signed James Ward-Prowse by that point. So there were panic stations at that point, and that was only 4 game weeks ago.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So since then, obviously we've gone out and I think reinvested the money really, really well. I think James Ward-Prowse is one of those signings where a lot of football fans now are kind of looking at it thinking, why wasn't my club interested in, in 100%. That? Just like James Maddison at Tottenham. Clubs kind of went unrivaled. You know, both clubs kind of went unrivaled in those signings. And I think it's helped that this year the signings have somewhat hit the ground running, because that was our downfall last year. We signed a lot of expansive players from around Europe, people like Lucas Paquetá, Scamacca, who's already left, and they didn't perform for large amounts of the season. It wasn't until the end of the season that Paquetá pulled his socks up. Good point, you know? So I think the fact that we've got these signings coming in and they're bedding into an already well-established unit, we're seeing a team that is just a bit of a nuisance. Like, I don't think any team in the league is really going to want to play West Ham at the moment, because it might be a lazy comment, but we are super physical. Everyone is over 6 foot tall.
Football's going in that direction.
We are boisterous. You know, like we've got a really aggressive front line in Mikel Antonio and Bowen and whoever Moyes picks on the left, because he constantly rotates that position. And then our midfield's just kind of full of giants. It's the same for the defenders. So you saw with City yesterday, although City are arguably the best team in the world, and they're going to dismantle anyone. It took them the best part of 80 minutes to get in front of us, you know, and we took the lead. So I'm definitely optimistic going into this season. I think we have enough depth and strength to really like do something this year. I don't think a good run in the Europa League is out the question. I feel like we could rival that. You know, we've shown it on the European stage the last couple of years.
You almost rise to the occasion, don't you? In terms of that, going back to James Ward-Prowse and what you were saying about how your team is highly physical, is there a better player, a better asset to bring in who can pinpoint a free kick or a corner or whatever onto a big head? And we were saying
Thomas Souček-sized head.
I mean, we were saying before the season, he alone is probably worth maybe 6 or 9 points. Because in a game where it's 0-0 and you're struggling to break down a team, and you get a free kick on the edge of the box, or you get a corner, having an asset like that, that's the difference between finishing, 17th and finishing 12th, and so
he's chipping in with not even like free kick and assists. He's chipping in with actual goals at the moment, like came and diving header against City, goal in the game before that as well. He's
he's an outrageous asset and
decent player. Where do you stand on him not getting that call up for England?
I've got a bit of a controversial view when it comes to West Ham fans in England. I mean, as a West Ham fan personally, I'm glad that he didn't get called up.
Yeah.
You know, because it means he doesn't go away and get injured.
I wish that for Saka sometimes. He gets played into the ground sometimes. And I wish he'd sometimes just get left out. But
this is a bit of a throwback. I still have nightmares about Dean Ashton going away on international duty and then getting the ankle injury that inevitably led to his retirement. So as a West Ham fan, I'm okay with it.
Fine about it,
and then on an England perspective, I'm just tired about asking and trying to apply logic to squad selections. You know, people will say about, Jarrett Bowen not getting in the squad. People will say about James Ward-Prowse not getting in the squad. And for years and years and years, I would speak about Declan Rice saying, he's a world-class midfielder. He's the next big thing, blah, 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 blah. Although he was getting into England squads, no one wanted to listen to it.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Arsenal, now he's the next big thing. And it just feels like when you're a West Ham player or if you're a player below
fair enough,
one of the original top six, the esteemed top six, probably disregarding teams like Newcastle at the moment, you're probably just not rated fairly. I think there's players at Man United that aren't as good as players at West Ham. And much like for the rest of the league, but because the name holds more weight, I think they have more chance getting in.
I think that's been a massive thing, not just with Gareth Southgate's selection, but for years previously. Let's talk a little bit about the Premier League for the minute. Manchester City. Obviously, you played them this weekend, and for 80 or so minutes, it was going really well.
Yeah,
and then suddenly they found a gear that no one else can seem to find, and they tear you apart and put three past you in 10, 15 minutes. So is anyone going to be able to stop them this season? Or is it going to be another case of Man City walking the league? 5
on the bounce. Is that 5 Prems on the bounce?
Yeah.
I mean, so Arsenal obviously took them so far last season, but then it got to a point where you're like, the gap is closing and City are there again. Yeah. And it felt inevitable at a point, unless you were an Arsenal fan and you were living on cloud nine.
Dreaming.
But can Man City be stopped? Like what has to happen? Does it have to be a massive cataclysmic event within the club itself? Does it require an injury or two to some key players? Something to do with Pep maybe? I mean,
let's look at the season so far. I mean, they've lost arguably their best player in Kevin De Bruyne for a period of time. Their manager's only just come back to the side of the stands from having back surgery. Mm-hmm. I think when they lose key players, I think they have so much depth and so much quality across the pitch. Even players like Jeremy Doku coming in yesterday,
outrageous.
They've got so much quality. I hope they do the whole season unbeaten because I think it will be an incredible achievement.
Jamie.
And I think it will actually be a real undefeated season instead of getting...
bloody hell, here he goes.
Here
he goes.
Can you see him drawing 12 games this year?
Here he goes.
Can you see him? So then the next time I go at the Emirates, I have to listen to that, what is it, 49.
Here he goes. But I get what you mean. They have more records to break. Yes. And Pep has got this unit of players that don't get dissatisfied and kind of throw their toys at the pram.
It?
They're hungry constantly, and they're a problem. And I think, like you said, they've lost De Bruyne, but the depth is crazy.
I mean, they always.
I've said on the pod that De Bruyne is on his way out anyway, and they've planned for that.
I mean, they lost Gundogan and Mahrez as well, who are two fairly key players, and players who were happy to play their role off the bench. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And they replaced them with Doku and Kovacic.
Nunez,
It's
plain sailing as
Gvardiol as well. We're not even mentioning him.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll go the season undefeated. I think once all the competitions start getting involved, like with Europe this week and the other cup competitions that they're in, I think they might drop a result here or there, like we saw one against Crystal Palace and things like that. But I can't see
them not winning
the league, and I think it'll be the first time ever that a team's won it 4 times in a row in the Premier League. Anyway,
Well, I saw a stat that Man City, the last 4 times they won the Prem, didn't start the season 4 wins out of 4, and this is the only time they've done 4 wins out of 4. So we might look at it like, are they as good? They're better than they've ever been. So scary.
I could never do it, but I think putting myself in the dressing room where they are, they must just have so much belief. They've won the treble last year. They've dominated large portions of the season. Their biggest rivals, they've beaten them twice.
Embarrassed them,
yeah. It's kind of one of those things where if you're in that dressing room, they must just have so much belief. All the players probably know they've got the best manager in the world.
Yep.
And then you look around and you've got players like Erling Haaland who scored 47 in 45, I believe.
It's crazy.
You've got Kevin De Bruyne who's on the bench, and you're still it's just you're bringing in world-class talents.
You mentioned West Ham investing in physicality. I think Pep was like, the mastermind behind like re-bringing that into the Prem, because that had kind of gone away from the Prem. It's all become a bit like
forward, just all
now they've got units everywhere. Yeah,
like all like 6 foot plus.
Yeah, units across centre back. Rodri, massive unit. Haaland, De Bruyne's big lad.
Bought in Kovacic, who's a massive unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's Pep's got this kind of physically dominant.
It's almost like
also like mentality.
Football went from being a physical game to being this tiki taka, almost brought in by Pep at one point. And then it's come in full circle back, but he's got such good technical players who just happen to be massive.
Yeah,
I think another one that I'm surprised it wasn't on their radar is Alexander Isak. He's so good technically, and he's such a big player as well. I think that would be someone who I can see maybe switching to the Etihad. But
Pep would take so much of that out of his game, though. Like, not in a bad way. I think we think of highlights around Isak, and it's these mazy runs on the left hand wing. I think he did it against Everton last year, scored that goal, which was like, wow, where's this player come from? But I think if he went to Man City, we'd see a much more machine-like player.
It's like a system. You have to play within the system, don't you?
Yeah, but then you see Grealish in that side, and Grealish is just genuinely, I think he gets a lot of hate, but I think he's incredible. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
I think he's tidied up his game massively. He
had to learn to play within the system, and which obviously had a negative effect on his sort of output. And I think Pep is looking for him now to re-bring that back into his game. Yeah. But like you say, when you've got players like Erling Haaland, who seem to just be the source of all goals on the planet, your outputs, apart from maybe your assists, is going to suffer anyway. Yeah. But and for me, Man City, they are almost the perfect team. They've got too much depth to even compete with. And we've been saying for a while, maybe the Premier League would be better off without Pep. Not as an entity, but for the competitive nature of it, not having the same. I mean, how many years did we used to rinse League One, and like all these, like the Bundesliga, for having a single team winning it?
I know what you're saying, but for me personally, I don't have any sort of hatred for Man City, but the other teams going for the league are all supported by close friends of mine, so I quite enjoy that
the struggle.
They go through struggles. Like the amount, I know Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, Man United fans that are all going through this period where they're just like they're never going to win the league, and I quite enjoy that.
Bit sadistic.
Don't worry about that. But I mean, like football's tribalism. Let's be honest. I get as much enjoyment from seeing my friends lose as I do winning a game.
Well, it's like me yesterday. I said to my girlfriend, as Man United had just lost and Spurs were losing, I was like, "There's nothing better than a Saturday when Man United lose and Spurs lose." Check my phone 10 minutes later, Spurs have gone and won, and I was like, how has that happened?
Exactly.
But it's all about, you get your buzz from your team winning, but you also get adequate buzz from your hatred of other teams losing. So
that's something within the sport that
I love it.
We felt recently may have been like delving off a little bit, like a lot of the hatred is like all on Twitter and everything, and it's not as quiet. But like when you sit there with your mates and you're watching Soccer Sunday or something like Super Sunday, and you're like, you're doing well there, mate. You 1-0 down to Sheffield United in the 90th minute, and then suddenly turn around, and that's what it's about. That's what we love.
I think it's less in the players nowadays, and we see more cohesion between the players. But I think the fans, it's as rife as ever. It's just,
I think almost have the lockdown period where you couldn't be there sitting in the stand looking at the opposition fans. You learn not to take it for granted now, don't you? Like it's massive. I can't remember. I was watching a highlight of a game that happened during lockdown, and it's just no sound. It's so all you can hear is every kick, and it was so eerie to watch. And it, like looking at it now, it's like we can never take this for granted. It's so important to like what atmosphere does for football. It's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about maybe not the top end of the table, but not too far down. We'll talk about the top 6. So the top 6, obviously, the initial 6 there, we're seeing faltering signs, especially from like Chelsea, who've had just a crazy couple of years, pretty negatively. But you've got teams like Brighton and Newcastle who could potentially be making a claim to be breaking into that top 6. I mean, Brighton absolutely putting Man United to the sword yesterday, and Newcastle in the Champions League for the first time in however long, and they're putting up performances week in, week out against really good teams. Where do you stand on the top 6? The top 6 was sort of an old school. Until fairly recently, you never really saw a season where Chelsea would finish 12th, or Tottenham would finish like ninth, and Man United struggling to get points on the board all the time. Where do you stand on sort of the flexibility of a top 6 now, and do you think it's maybe growing into like maybe a top 8?
Well, it depends really because, I mean, by the top 6, you're saying both the Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal and Chelsea. Yeah. Well, you said it yourself. I think there's clubs in there that are faltering. And we can't ignore the resurgence of teams like Newcastle, for example. You know, Newcastle are obviously going under the radar at the moment because I think they had one of the hardest starts in the Premier League.
Very hard,
but they picked up an important win against Brentford. So I think Newcastle can definitely force their way in there, and I think they are the most likely team to do that.
They've got all the assets there. They've got a massive fan base. They've got a brilliant stadium, and they've got owners who are clearly willing to do whatever it takes to push into that sort of top echelon of football. But I for a team like Brighton, though, they've gone from having a manager like Graham Potter, who was very progressive and taking them to like new heights, and then they've somehow replaced him after all the controversy of them losing him to Chelsea and them taking all the backroom staff and then taking all their players and Bissouma leaving and, you know, Cucurella leaving. Caicedo's left this season. I mean, they just seem to they don't care. They brought in a manager who, if by any means, looks far superior to what Graham Potter was doing at their club. Yeah. And, they lost Caicedo. Whoopie-doo, like, who cares? Yeah. They're playing week in, week out. And is there any reason why they can't become a name?
I think they're definitely going to be there or thereabouts. I think they are probably the most enjoyable team to watch in the league, and are probably one of the best footballing sides in the world. And who would have thought we would have been saying that a few years ago? And I think it's down to their Moneyball kind of approach towards football. I do worry that how long they're going to be able to keep that up, because we've seen very similar scenarios in terms of very good recruitment from teams like Leicester and Southampton at the years, and at one point they both hit a wall and they couldn't get a like for like or whatnot. I think with Brighton now, I don't really see that at the moment, and I think like they've got arguably some of the biggest stars that we've seen from that club still coming through. Players like Evan Ferguson, who's already scored a hat-trick this year. How much is he going to go for? You know, Matoma on the left wing, like causing Manchester United yesterday.
Young up-and-coming star Danny Welbeck.
Danny Welbeck's man like Welbs. And he's imagine he celebrated as well. I think he scored like five goals in total against Manchester United since he's left now.
I saw Pascal Gross, he's scored 5 goals at Old Trafford, and only Salah and I can't remember who else. Scored.
We said about this on the show yesterday. That fake from Pascal Gross,
outrageous,
is not the PR that Martinez needed.
No,
Do you remember last year when Salah did it to?
It was one of my favourite moments on the podcast,
and it turned into a meme, like where he's walking into a portal and stuff like that. I'm just waiting for someone to do that again. Because the way Pascal Gross obviously faked that ball and then scored.
He's got to be one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Like, he only just got his first call up to Germany. Was he 33 years old?
He's been doing it in the Prem for years.
Had this conversation about Solly March as well.
I think he's so good. I said this to Luke. I think he should be in the England squad.
Yeah, I thought he was German.
I saw that on your
Well, we spoke about this recently on a show that I got, Game of Fives with Copa, and for the longest time, you never see his name associated. He's just been in at far-flung Brighton over there. They're scoring really good goals, playing really good football, finishing top 10 football every year. You know, like not really being too, assuming, very unassuming club.
Yeah, 100%.
You just assume that he's German or not English.
Yeah, justice for Solly.
Yeah, he is class.
He's so good.
As I said, Brighton plays some of the best football in the world, I would say. And he's one of the first names on the team sheet, and he's not even getting a sniff.
Yeah, and people I've never even seen him like linked with a potential call up. Like, he's not even in that list of when they like publish list of people that could get called up. He's not even in that list. I'm like, what's going on here?
Maybe it's just unfortunate for him that England is currently so stacked with attacking players.
Yeah,
like we've only just seen the likes of Eberechi Eze get his call up, and he's been almost the main man for Palace in the season and the end of last season. Solly March, what a player!
What a player! Yeah, shout out Brighton. Another team that are flying, I hate to say it, Spurs.
Yep.
They got in an unknown quantity in Ange Postecoglou. Where do you sit on Ange Ball and what he's brought to this Spurs team? Because obviously they lost Harry Kane in the summer. That is one of the biggest moves that summer had to offer, because no way are you at the end of the season thinking, oh yeah, he's going to be starting the season at Bayern Munich. But here we are. Where do you stand on Spurs and their kind of revitalisation of the squad?
I find it really annoying because I actually quite like Ange.
I hate that I like him.
He's too likeable, isn't he?
So likeable.
As a West Ham fan, I was buzzing when Harry Kane left, because I could finally publicly announce how good Harry Kane is as a footballer. Do you know what I mean? Same, Jokes aside, obviously, we all know he's world class. That's been for years. But with Ange, he's just bringing like he's got the media on his side straight away, which is obviously a big help. and he's just a likable character.
When you're an Aussie, it's so easy because you're just automatically so likable.
Yeah, the accent. He's like, oh, come on, mate. You know, that terrible accent. Cut that one out. But yeah, either way, I think it helps that he's so likable as a manager, and they've hit the ground running. You know, like I spoke about it earlier. James Maddison's come in and looks like he's the new main man at Tottenham now. Yeah. Obviously, they're there or thereabouts. You know, it helps when players that have been struggling like Richarlison and Kulusevski go and get the winning goals for you.
Someone like Basuma as well, who didn't really get a look last season. He's been imperious for them. Udogie as well. Yeah. He's been really
now
good.
Looks like a completely new player. He looks like the player that was Saicedo before Saicedo, you know, at Brighton. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Ange Ball. I can see Tottenham doing really, really well.
Sadly, but yeah.
Sadly, yeah. Exactly.
I'm intrigued to see if they hit a bad spell, how he'll cope with the bad spell, how this team will cope with the bad spell, because obviously that's like, when we were talking about Brighton just beating Man United, Man United are in that bad spell right now. I'd say last season as a whole was quite good for Man United. They got a trophy, they got top 4.
Yeah.
So Ten Hag didn't really have any major negative PR apart from the Cristiano Ronaldo situation. But this season, he's had like a whole bag of things to deal with. Mason Greenwood, like Sancho, Anthony, and now bad form as well. And he's not really handling the media very well. So I'll be intrigued to see how Ange handles a bad
It's an example of how having the media on your side is so important, because you go back to, if you was to put the first press conference of Ten Hag next to Ange together, it's like Ten Hag was in a suit that didn't really fit him. It was very edgy, very standoffish.
Yeah, it was a little bit prickly,
Yeah, very prickly. And that's obviously going to put people on their feet, you know. And then you look at Ange and it's just like, you know, it's laid back, Australian guy, sit and play football, you know what I mean? I think it's so important. So then when Manchester United have all the issues that they have off the pitch and on the pitch, those things just get blown up into, you know, 10 times bigger. Obviously because it's Man United, they're arguably the biggest club in the world. But I think it just shows how managerial approaches towards media can actually change the outcome of 100%. How you're perceived in the media, you know?
And I think he has had a little bit of a rough patch at the beginning of the season. They brought in Mason Mount and he's been injured. Varane's been injured. Luke Shaw's been injured. Tariq Malacia as well. They brought in Rasmus Højlund as well, and he's only just started yesterday. Yeah. And that was a position that they had about Weghorst in last season. Yeah. That's just, that goes to tell you everything. And then obviously Anthony and Sancho, it just seems like...
And Greenwood as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What can he do apart from just try and manage the fire that is going on at the minute? Yeah. And it's going to be so pivotal to him to have a run of 2 or 3 wins on the bounce, because then you'll see the whole... the whole vibe will change, and then suddenly you're getting back. Oh, you've got Mason Mount back. He might pop in with a goal, and suddenly, he looks like a real good asset for us. Or you get Varane in, and then suddenly they're not shipping, 2 goals a game or whatever.
Well, what I will say is, like yesterday, although they were played off the park by Brighton, it was just that. Yeah. It wasn't a side that looked that they weren't giving effort or trying for the club, or playing for the badge or stuff like that. So I don't think Man United fans should be too worried. I think they just came up against a Brighton side that are red hot. You said it best. But on Rasmus Højlund though, like when you talk about their signings, he was one player that I was really unsure of, because I think he didn't have the best record in Italy. I think he scored like 9 in 30 or something. So I thought to myself, I was thinking, how is he going to be the main man? But seeing the way he conducts himself, especially yesterday, and then on the international break, I'm not sure if you saw it, there's a clip of him with the megaphone talking to the fans and stuff. You can really see that he's like a young guy that actually carries himself well and may have some character.
I think he's a good signing. I was unsure, but when he had his cameo against Arsenal, he looked really good. Yeah. And I think once he gets in the flow,
yesterday and like you said,
United start getting a couple of wins on the bounce,
the whole change. The sort of equation is there for them. They've replaced De Gea with a keeper that can play with his feet. I do watch Onana and he makes me nervous. and he hasn't had the best luck in front of defending his goal. Yeah. But you can tell
he's faced 10 shots and conceded 7 goals.
But obviously what he's going to bring to the team is going to allow them to start building play so much deeper than they were having to literally skip to like Eriksen and Casemiro to start building play from, because you had literally like Maguire or like Lindelof next to Martinez, because Varane was always injured. Yeah. And so hopefully when they get it all back together, well, hopefully for Man United fans, they can actually start to see all the pieces come together, and we might see a team like Ten Hag's Ajax side, which done so well in European competitions and obviously in the Eredivisie. But for me, we can't judge them too quickly because that is not the finished product there. They've literally, their striker that they signed for however much it was, like nearly 70 million. He's only had one full game. He didn't even finish the game, did he? You saw the Man United fans booing when he got subbed off. But I mean, when they do have that full strength side of the pitch, I think that's when we can really judge them for what Ten Hag can do.
I don't care. I think Ten Hag is going to be the first manager to be sacked.
You think?
Yeah, and I'm going to put that question to you. Who do you think... I know we've already lost Lopetegui, but that was kind of like a I'm leaving situation rather than a sacking. Who do you think is going to be the first manager's head on the chopping block?
This might be a bit of a cop-out, but with Everton's new ownership...
yeah, I saw that.
I feel like Sean Dyche could be one of the first managers to lose their job. You know what it's like when clubs get taken over.
Yeah.
They want to kind of reinvent the club in their own image.
Yeah, it's like Bournemouth.
777 as well have like a history of from clubs that they currently own.
Yeah, it's like Bournemouth when they let Gary O'Neill go. We thought he was doing pretty decent at Bournemouth, but they got rid of him, got Areola in, and
I mean, Wolves looked quite good against Liverpool. For Pedro Neto was unbelievable for them.
Yeah, I agree with you actually. Gary O'Neill has looked really good this year. I will say Sean Dyche though.
Okay.
Regretfully so.
Heckenbottom at Sheffield United.
That's a bigger cop out.
I can't. I mean, if I'm not going for him,
take a leap, Luke. A leap of faith.
A leap of faith.
I said Ten Hag just mainly because I don't like United, and I just don't think he has imparted his style of play. He's been there a year and a half, and I was saying to Luke on the train here, I don't think I've seen them properly dominate a game of football. Maybe like they dominated Newcastle in the FA Cup final, which I thought was quite surprising. But apart from that, I can't really remember a game where I've seen them and been like, oh, they look really good.
What I would say is I think Ten Hag is doing a very good job of managing Man United in regards to...
It's a hard job.
It's his dressing room as well. Like, he's made big decisions. We can't disregard the fact that they finished top 4 last year and got to 2 cup finals, winning one of them and then losing.
I am thinking, but
losing to obviously City. Yeah. De Gea made the error early on in the game. What happened? De Gea's out the club. Club stalwart, club icon for the last 10 years. So he's made some big decisions, and there's been a lot of dead weight that he's had to move out the door as well. He's still got players at the club that he clearly doesn't want there. Yeah. But I just can't see him.
Yeah, it would be ballsy. Yeah, it would be ballsy from United to let him go.
My name.
Okay,
I'm going to go for Poch.
Poch.
Because I think it could very well click and Chelsea will start flying. And we saw, I think their best performance was against Luton, which isn't saying too much, but you saw Malo Gusto and Raheem Sterling doing bits. I think Reece James is almost a write-off at this point. I hate to say it because I think he's an unbelievable player.
You're talking about their club captain, mate.
Yeah, I think he's a write-off.
But he's made of like sticks. I don't know. I feel he's such a good football player. So good. Yeah. And he in my opinion, he could have been the best right-back in the world. But like sometimes players do get recurring injuries that is what you have to deal with. Like that is what it is. But yeah, Pochettino, if it doesn't happen by January, I think it could be a very quick, swift turnaround. And I don't know who they're going to go for, but they seem to have money.
Yeah, we did say. Well, that's what I said. If Man United sack Ten Hag, they just throw all the money at De Zerbi.
But yeah, I for me, the Sheffield United one is obviously the biggest cop out ever. But Poch. I mean, can Poch make it work at Chelsea? Does he have all the right tools there? Or is it too much of a job?
With Chelsea, I feel like the only consistency at that club is the inconsistency. Yeah. There's too many question marks around that club right now in terms of will players perform. I do think they have some genuinely world-class players. Players like Reece James, you just can't keep fit. Enzo looks like one of the best centre mids in the league. But then outside of that, they've got players that are a little bit too inconsistent and a lot of question marks. If it does go right, it's going to go right. It's going to go right in a very big way. But currently, I just can't see any light at the end of the tunnel for Chelsea.
Yeah, in the Bowley era, it's just been, like you said, inconsistency upon inconsistency upon inconsistency. And all they've done is spend money. And I was saying to Luke, so in the Luton game, I looked at their bench, and for £1 billion spent, I was like, there's no one there that reflects that £1 billion spent.
You got to look at net spend as well. I mean, they've offloaded a lot of players and things like that. But again, I'm completely with you. I think they're one of the only teams in the league where I look at their transfer kind of window, and I think there's no cohesion between the signings that they're making. You know, the Cole Palmer transfer, like,
so weird,
great player, but like, where does he play?
Where does that come from?
Like, does he
especially
play
when they paid 45 million for him? James Maddison, not that maybe Chelsea don't need James Maddison, but for Maddison to cost 40 million and you're spending 45 on Cole Palmer, who's probably had 5 Premier League appearances, is crazy.
And I love Cole Palmer.
Yeah, I think he's quality.
He started the season on fire. Obviously scored in the Community Shield, scored in the Super Cup as well for City.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Clearly a very good player.
Euros, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I just think to myself, I think there's no cohesion between some of the signings that they have. So it's almost like they sit there, and this is obviously super. This is clearly what they know. If they do this, I'm very worried. But they clearly look at a player, go, he's good. Let's go buy him. And then it's almost
they worry about fitting him in later, don't they?
Yeah, it's like after the fact. So I think is Poch signing these players? Is it Bowley? Like, it's just a confusing one for me.
It stinks of like FIFA career mode. Like they got the takeover or something.
Yeah, you sign all the best 19-year-olds in the world, and then 3 years later they're all the best players in the world, regardless if they play well or not. You know, like that's how it feels like at Chelsea right now. You know, I've got Chelsea fans. Well, I've not got them. Sorry, I see them on Twitter and everywhere saying, "Oh, Nicholas Jackson's going to be one of the best strikers in the league." But it's like, on what basis?
Yeah, where have you got that from? Yeah,
I mean,
he's missed already 4 or 5 clear-cut chances.
There was one where I think he put it over the bar from about 3 yards out.
Yeah,
it was impressive.
Yeah, the last game against Notts Forest, they needed a goal. They were 1-0 down. You know, after Alanga scored.
Yeah,
and he skied it. Like, clearly there's a player in there, but how often have we seen players in there that have never arrived?
I mean, Chelsea are just sort of doomed with that striker spot, aren't they? I mean, you go back to like maybe Diego Costa is like the last pretty decent one they actually had. I mean, they failed to make it work with like Lukaku or Aubameyang they bought in as well. That was a weird one. But yeah, it just seems like there's a lot going on at Chelsea without seeing enough on the pitch.
Yeah.
And there have been points where you can say, right, they look like a team now. They're starting to come together, and I think they had a really good preseason, and a lot of people were quite excited about them. But the minute it mattered, it just seems it doesn't seem to reflect on the pitch what everyone is saying around the club.
I think they lost Nkunku as well, which is obviously a huge blow just before the season.
Yeah, but I mean, there are really good players there. Like, I think Badiashile is a really good defender.
Been injured.
Enzo is obviously he's a world class midfielder. And you can, even if the results aren't coming for his club, you can look at him and say he's an elite midfielder. But then you've got players like Mykhailo Mudryk who, what's happened there? Like, he's gone from playing against like Chernobyl's finest, where he looks really good, and then he's suddenly playing in the Premier League and he looks well out of his depth. I mean, for Ukraine, he looks quite all right.
Yeah, and so in the under-21 World Cup, was it World Cup or Euros? Euros. Obviously, England ended up winning it, but he looked really good in that tournament. And I thought to myself, and then he scored a really good goal against Brighton in pre-season as well. And, you know, I was investing stock in Mudryk before the start of the season, thinking like, you know, this is when he's going to arrive. But yeah, it's just not happened for him yet. No. And this is what I mean by Chelsea. There's so many question marks over all of their players. They're waiting for these players to eventually arrive. And it's like, well, at some point, some of them have to. You know, they can't
keep waiting.
They can't rely on a Raheem Sterling to, you know, be performing. And we've seen some of the best Raheem Sterling at Chelsea this season so far, but we can't rely on that for 38 match days. There needs to be other players.
No, exactly. It's interesting. But my opinion is, if it doesn't click soon, January, I think it could be a
Poch.
It could be Poch out.
Could be Poch.
I feel for Poch, because it's like, it's a job that obviously it's a Chelsea job. Potter couldn't turn it down, but that also came with like, why are they getting rid of Tuchel? And then suddenly Potter's left, Lampard's taken over. That was always doomed to fail. And then they brought in Pochettino after being linked with Nagelsmann, wasn't it? And it seemed like a big job. A lot of people were saying like, what's he actually won? You know, what has he achieved? And you go back to taking Spurs to a Champions League final. What was it, like a second place finish in the Premier League? And then he went over to PSG and
didn't do well.
Didn't do too well, no. And it's almost hard to fail there, but you're almost set up to fail unless you win the Champions League with PSG. And I feel like he's walked into another job here where, unless he can get something going very quickly, it's gonna be another dent on that CV. And I struggle to see how he can make it work like that, because it's too much going on. I mean, he was asked about what is it? The player. He was asked about a player.
Oh, he was asked about Malang Sarr.
Yeah, Malang
and then
Sarr.
just acted like he didn't know Malang Sarr was in the squad. But yeah, it's so weird. I don't really care. Fuck Chelsea. I've got a question for you. You said you'd invested stocks in Mykhailo Mudryk pre-season. Yeah. We actually posed this question to Don Robbie when we had him on the pod. 3 flops from last season: Mudryk, Antony, and Richarlison. Rank them for me in terms of like who you think
is going to have the best season,
then middle, then who is the stinker of the 3?
Who is the middle player again, sorry?
Antony, Richarlison, and Mudryk.
I mean, we don't know what's going on with Antony at the minute.
Yeah, so Antony's probably a wobbly one now, but
let's put Antony as third.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stinks though, doesn't he? He's rubbish.
Only because we don't know if he's going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mudryk, I would say second. And annoyingly, I'll put Richarlison first.
I said Richarlison is my pick because I think he's got he's got everything there right now to succeed. And I think we've seen him before, especially in Brazil. He's actually quite a prolific goal scorer for Brazil. I know he came off crying the other day, but he's obviously in a really tough place at the minute where he just can't seem to make anything work for him.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous cycle where players do get into their own heads and they try and force it too much to make it work.
It's like the Havertz situation. Yeah.
But he's obviously been the lead of a massive comeback against Sheffield United for them, scoring the header and then getting the assist for the winner.
Yeah.
I think he's got all the capability there to succeed.
Yeah,
well, we've seen him come out as well. Sorry,
yeah.
we've seen him come out and say that he's obviously seeking like mental health help to try and get, probably speaking to a sports psychologist to try and get that sort side of the game down. And you can always say that's one part of his game that may have been a little bit lackluster, where he might be a bit petulant at times. So if he can get that, that help that he clearly wants and needs, fair play to him for coming out publicly saying that. I think he has all the attributes to obviously be successful at Tottenham, especially because without Harry Kane, someone has to score the goals, and those goals are probably going to be dispersed across the squad.
100%.
Beneficial for Son.
So
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm saying he's petulant. I remember him coming on against Chelsea at the Battle of the Bridge.
Yeah.
And him coming on was like the spark that set the plays of play.
Yeah.
He was clattering in for tackles and he was getting right in everyone's faces.
Yeah, he is.
I like him. I
hate him, but if he was on my team, you can't.
You got to back it.
Not back it. Yeah.
Still though, I don't, again, you're giving me 3 very poor options. I don't think any of them are going to have stellar seasons.
Yeah. Well, that was the gem of the question.
Do you not think he can get like 15 goals this season?
I don't think he'll make 10 Premier
League
goals.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I had him second because I didn't really know how Ange Ball was going to go. But now I'd probably have him top. I had Mudryk top in mind.
Jamie, I've got an interesting question for you. Converting back to West Ham.
Yeah.
I want you to build your perfect football player, but it can only be current or past West Ham players. So you got to pick your left foot, your right foot, your strength, speed, skill, and IQ. One attribute from each player.
Start with left foot.
I will go with Jarrod Bowen, left foot.
Jarrod Bowen, left foot. Okay. Right foot.
I'm going to make a cool little animation of this person that Jamie builds.
Hang on, let me double check. I need to just make sure I'm not being silly. Jarrod Bowen is left footed.
He plays on the right wing, cuts in. So I back it.
Mate, can I Google that?
What was Demi Pyatt?
Yeah, I was going to say Demi Pyatt, but what foot is Pyatt?
Oh, mate, we messed this up.
That's all right.
No,
mate, one sec. I want to double check.
It's all right.
Because he cuts in and always shoots on his left, but he's one of the most one-footed players that West Ham has.
He's left-footed.
Yeah, he's left-footed. I was going to say. Right.
Yeah.
Right-footed, I will go Demi Pyatt. Right,
very nice.
Okay. Shall I restart that for you?
No, it's fine.
We can
edit this around.
So, left foot, Jarrod Bowen. Right foot, Demi Pyatt.
Very good. So that's the feet
That's
done.
the feet done. Right.
What else was there? IQ. Footballing IQ.
Oh, can I pick the same player twice? I can't, can I?
No. Are you going to go Demi Pyatt again?
Oh, I will go with... Lucas Paquetá.
I was going to say Lucas Paquetá.
Good.
I had 2 names in my head, but I don't know what the next questions are.
Okay. So we've got left foot, right foot, and then we've got IQ, strength. And the other one is speed and skill. So strength.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you the same question but QPR, and then we'll do an answer.
Okay, let's go. I will go Mikel Antonio.
Good strength. Ooh. Yeah, that's him to a T, isn't it? What a
guy. For strength?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speed.
Oh, speed. Oh, man, you're killing me. Speed. We're not known for speed. I would say Ryan Fredericks.
Good, yeah. I like Ryan Fredericks, yeah.
Yeah, that's a decent one. I was gonna say like maybe Antonio for speed as well.
Can't
like,
do two.
I can't double up. I can't double up.
I can't even think of another speed guy, yeah.
Maybe Mohamed Kudus.
Kudus.
He's the only guy, but like he hasn't shown it enough yet, so I wouldn't want to pick him.
Skill.
You've killed me.
Wow.
Or are you going to go Paquetá?
Or Payet?
Yeah, there's a couple.
I will go with Joe Cole.
No, yes.
Oh, that's an outrageous.
Joe Cole, what a player,
He was
man.
so underrated.
Yeah, I had kind of like an epiphany the other night when I just kind of dawned on me how good Joe Cole actually was. And yeah, I think I never really backed him well enough. Luke, I can't remember what they all were. Left foot for QPR.
I'm struggling to think of like a left-footed. For me, we got a signing recent, like last season, who has gone under the radar for a lot of people. But I like Kenneth Powell. Kenneth Powell is my left foot.
Yep. Right foot.
I'm gonna go Charlie Austin.
Yeah, nice. Footballing IQ.
For me, I'm not gonna go like way back and be like Stan Bowles. I'll go for Alejandro Fowlin.
Yeah, good. I like him. Strength.
Clint Hill.
Good.
Clint Hill.
Speed.
We did have Carl Walker on loan.
You can have Carl Walker if you want. I'll back that.
Yeah, Carl Walker, you can't beat, can you?
And then I think I know who you're going to put for skill.
Bobby Zamora. No, Adel Taarabt.
What a guy.
It's got to be.
What a guy. Yeah.
No, that's outrageous. And for your Arsenal one, yeah?
Right, I've had a quick ponder.
Left foot.
Robin Van Persie. Fuck him, but Robin Van Persie.
Okay.
Man United legend.
What about Cazorla, no?
No, I'd probably still say Robin Van
okay.
Persie. Actually, scrap that. Lucas Podolski.
Oh,
rocket of a left foot.
Mate, he was outrageous. He was so good.
I'd go Lucas Podolski.
I think he's still playing.
Yeah, probably in some
Japan or something.
Strange league, yeah.
Right foot.
Ooh, right foot. I'm going to go Alexis Sanchez.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Strength.
Diaby.
For the 4 games he played this season.
Yeah.
His strength
he is my guy.
the injury table.
Over Vieira, by the way.
Yeah, I think Diaby was so sad, his career.
Speed,
Theo Walcott.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Skill,
I'm going Thierry Henry.
Oh, yeah. And then IQ,
Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
Over Bergkamp.
Yeah.
Oh, Ozil was different.
Ozil was different.
So was
Bergkamp is a shout though, but
you've got
Mesut
quite
Ozil.
a nice like array of players to pick.
We've got a plethora of players. Yeah.
Right, before we wrap it up,
Luke was adamant we should have this section in.
There was a big thing about some Mexican aliens recently. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes, I did actually. Yeah, I did.
So, do you think there's life out in the universe?
Oh,
it's a pretty big place.
I think the first. I believe it's the first 6 elements on the elemental table are what are the most abundant things in the universe.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we're made of also. So the universe is so vast and so expansive that, you know, I wouldn't want to say no. So
I don't think you
obviously
can say no.
No, you can't.
You know, there's so many, like there has to be.
Right, so
that's where I stand, yeah.
So we're going to go for a yes on the life in the universe. But after those Mexican aliens were here, yeah?
Yeah.
If aliens have ever watched a football game, or you can make them watch one football game from the past, present, which game would you pick to show them alien?
I actually know mine. It literally just came to my head, but I'll let you go first. One game to show a foreign species.
Do you know what? There's probably more iconic games, but I'll just go personal games to me. It's a game that's like filled with heartbreak for me. Probably the 2005-06 season, I believe. Is it 2005? I'll just say the FA Cup. Yeah, the FA Cup with West Ham and Liverpool, where we drew 3-3.
You just spoke to Nigel Rio-Coco about this, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Was it 05-06? It's either 04-05 or 05-06. I can't remember the year off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But obviously ended with the Steven Gerrard rocket, one of the biggest like cinema games in my life, I would say. I think I would show an alien that.
Good game. I was going to say the Argentina-France World Cup final that just happened.
Yeah,
that was almost written like a script, wasn't it?
That was. And then you'd just be like, that guy there, Messi, he is one of you. He's not one of us.
Did you find out where he came from?
Yeah, he's an alien as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I went personal, it'd be the playoff final. But if I wasn't to go personal, I would go maybe Spurs Ajax in the Champions League.
The Lucas Moura goal was great. Yeah,
that was pretty outrageous. That was late.
I hate that you picked Spurs, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was a brilliant game. I'm sure there's hundreds of others. 100%. I mean, if you guys want to let us know, you could show an alien one football game, past, present. What would you pick?
Yeah,
but yeah, Jamie, thank you very much for coming on. We do really appreciate your time. Do you want to plug anything before you head off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can find me all over the Copa 90 socials. If you don't know what Copa 90 is, it's COPA90. On my channels, I'm just Jamie Talks. So
it'll all be down in the description. So check him out. His quality, his stuff is quality. And
cheers, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
No, thank you guys for watching. It's been a brilliant episode. We thoroughly enjoyed having.
Thanks to all the new subscribers as well. We've had a bunch of new subs recently, and we love all of you. Yeah,
it's been great. But yeah, guys, make sure you do like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know down below your thoughts and opinions on everything we have discussed today. And yeah, it's been BoreDraw, episode number 63.
I think so.
We think, and it's live.